They gonna kill me, y'all. I'm gonna make them kill me, y'all. Today is the day I die.
Welcome back to Shadows of Crime, where we explore the most chilling true crime stories in depth. On the morning of December 28, 2024, Columbia, South Carolina, awoke to a scene that would shock the nation. Antavius Gettit Brown, a 36-year-old rapper known in his community and beyond, became the center of a tragedy that would unfold live on social media before the eyes of countless viewers. The events of that day began quietly, in a residential neighborhood, yet what followed would spiral into chaos and despair. That morning, Brown was at his home with his girlfriend, Topia Tapia. According to authorities, an argument erupted between the two. The details of what triggered the confrontation remain a subject of investigation, but what is clear is that the altercation escalated to violence. Brown allegedly shot Topia, then transported her to a nearby hospital. Witnesses and police reports later confirmed that she survived, but the terror of the day had only begun. Within hours, Brown made threats that extended beyond his own actions, claiming he would harm Topia's children if anyone tried to stop him. Law enforcement quickly became involved, responding to calls from the neighborhood and reports from the hospital. What followed was a police pursuit that would capture national attention. Brown, behind the wheel of his vehicle, took to the streets of Columbia, with officers in pursuit. During the chase, Brown broadcast the events live on Facebook, addressing the viewers directly. His words were chilling. "Y'all won. Today's my last day," he stated, confirming his intention to end his life. Social media viewers watched in real time as the pursuit unfolded, unable to intervene, only witnessing the progression of a tragedy that had no immediate resolution. The chase moved at high speed through the city, with authorities coordinating to prevent further danger. The tension mounted with every turn, every acceleration, and every block passed. Brown's live stream offered a window into his state of mind, a direct, unfiltered account of the man at the center of a violent and desperate sequence of events. Ultimately, the pursuit ended near Garner's Ferry Road, where Brown's vehicle collided, leaving him dead at the scene. The aftermath raised urgent questions about domestic violence, mental health, and the role of social media in situations of real-time danger. Families, friends, and neighbors were left grappling with the shocking reality of what had transpired, and the nation was left to process a sequence of events that played out publicly, unfiltered and final. In this episode, we will unravel the life, the actions, and the final moments of Antavius Gettit Brown, examining the circumstances that led to one of the most tragic and widely witnessed events in recent true crime history. If you enjoy deep examinations of true crime stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as we take you through every detail, every witness account, and every revelation that emerged from that day in Columbia, South Carolina. To understand the events of December 28, 2024, we must first look at the lives of the people at the center of this tragedy. Antavius Gettit Brown was 36 years old, a rapper from Columbia, South Carolina. In his community, he was known for his music and his larger-than-life personality. He had fans who admired his talent and friends who respected his energy. Yet behind the public persona, there were signs of a troubled personal life. Friends and acquaintances described Brown as intense, often quick to anger, and deeply passionate about his relationships. Those closest to him had witnessed disputes, arguments, and moments of volatility, but no one could have predicted the sequence of events that would unfold on that winter morning. Topia Tapia, his girlfriend, was at the heart of this story. She was 29, known for her warmth, intelligence, and dedication to her children. Tapia had worked tirelessly to provide stability for her family, balancing her career and responsibilities with care and attention. Those who knew her speak of a woman deeply committed to her children, cautious in her relationships, and always aware of the risks surrounding her life. Her connection to Brown was complicated. Neighbors and friends noted their arguments, moments that escalated beyond ordinary disputes. Authorities later learned of prior incidents, small conflicts that, in hindsight, hinted at a pattern of tension and potential danger. The neighborhood in which this story unfolded was a typical residential area of Columbia. Streets lined with homes, children playing during the day, and neighbors greeting one another with familiarity. On December 28th, the weather was cold, a clear winter day, seemingly ordinary in every way. Yet beneath that ordinary surface, events were building, tension that would erupt into violence, fear, and a pursuit that captured the attention of the nation. Brown's life was marked by a combination of ambition and instability. While he had found success in music, personal challenges weighed heavily on him. Sources close to him spoke of stress, unresolved conflicts, and struggles with controlling his temper. Combined with his relationship with Tapia, these pressures created a volatile environment. Authorities later described the day as one in which a combination of personal grievances, emotional distress, and dangerous decision-making culminated in a fatal outcome. Neighbors recall the quiet moments before the storm, the sound of doors closing, the usual traffic passing, children playing in yards. There were no indications that what was about to occur would shake the community to its core. Yet, those who had observed Brown and Tapia over time had noted the tension, the arguments, and the heightened emotions. The neighborhood, seemingly peaceful, carried the subtle weight of unease that foreshadowed what was to come. By examining these backgrounds, the ambitions, the relationships, the environment, we begin to see how the lives of Antavius, Gettit, Brown, and Nuderatopia Tapia intersected with tragedy. The stage was set, not by chance, but by a complex web of circumstances, choices, and pressures. What followed on that day would not only mark the end of Brown's life, but also leave lasting questions about domestic violence, mental health, and the unpredictable ways in which personal conflicts can erupt into public calamity. The morning of December 28, 2024, began quietly. But within hours, the ordinary streets of Columbia, South Carolina, became the backdrop for a violent and tragic sequence of events. Antavius, Gettit, Brown, and Nuderatopia Tapia were at their residence when a confrontation erupted. The details that led to the argument remain under investigation, but authorities confirmed that Brown allegedly shot Tapia during the altercation. The gravity of the situation was immediately apparent. This was no ordinary dispute. Tapia was critically injured, her life hanging in the balance. Despite the severity of her injuries, Brown transported her to a nearby hospital. Neighbors and witnesses recall the urgency and fear that marked those moments. Emergency responders were notified, and medical personnel prepared to receive a patient whose life had been placed in immediate danger. In parallel, authorities began receiving reports of Brown's threatening behavior. He reportedly claimed he would return to the residence and harm Tapia's children. The threat elevated the situation to a crisis, prompting a swift response from law enforcement. As officers attempted to locate Brown, he took to the streets in his vehicle. What followed was a high-speed police pursuit through the city. Brown's actions were captured live on Facebook, the live stream offering viewers a direct window into his state of mind. On the broadcast, he spoke calmly yet resolutely, stating, "Y'all won, today's my last day." Those words would later echo across media outlets, a haunting confirmation of his intent to end his own life. The pursuit moved at high speed, weaving through residential streets and main roads. Authorities coordinated to minimize risks to civilians, but the sheer unpredictability of the chase made containment difficult. Witnesses along the route recall seeing a man determined, a vehicle moving erratically, a live stream being broadcast in real time to countless viewers. Every turn and acceleration heightened the tension, every stoplight a potential danger. The live stream provided an unfiltered record of Brown's actions and mindset. Viewers could hear his voice, see the city passing by in rapid motion, and witness the moments leading up to the final crash. Social media users reported the video to authorities, yet the events continued to unfold faster than intervention could occur. The combination of live broadcasting and high-speed flight created a unique and tragic convergence of technology and human behavior, one that would leave lasting questions about the influence of social media in crises. The pursuit ultimately concluded near Garner's Ferry Road, where Brown's vehicle collided, ending his life instantly. The crash marked the final act of a sequence that had begun with domestic violence and escalated into a public spectacle of fear and tragedy. Tapia survived her injuries, but the emotional and psychological impact of witnessing the events unfold, both in person and online, would linger. This chapter of the story highlights the terrifying speed with which domestic conflict can escalate, the real-time consequences of threats and violence, and the ways in which modern technology can capture both the human drama and the tragedy. It was a day that began quietly in Colombia and ended with shock, grief, and questions that would resonate long after the final crash. The moments after the crash near Ghana's Ferry Road marked the beginning of a meticulous and tense investigation. Authorities arrived on the scene to find Antavius Gettit Brown deceased in his vehicle. Emergency responders confirmed there was no chance to save him, while investigators immediately shifted focus to understanding the sequence of events that had led to this fatal outcome. Every detail, from the trajectory of the chase to the statements on the Facebook livestream, became crucial pieces of evidence. At the hospital, Nuderatopia Tapia was receiving treatment for her injuries. Medical staff confirmed that she had survived, but the trauma was far from over. Investigators spoke with her once her condition stabilized, seeking to reconstruct what had happened inside the home before the pursuit began. Tapia's testimony, combined with eyewitness accounts from neighbors, began to form the foundation of the case. Her courage in relaying details, despite the emotional and physical pain she had endured, became a key element in understanding the full scope of the incident. Law enforcement then turned to the digital trail left by Brown. The Facebook livestream had been preserved, providing a real-time record of his movements, his voice, and his declarations. Investigators analyzed the video frame by frame, noting the locations, the vehicle's speed, and Brown's statements. Every word was scrutinized for insight into his state of mind, his intent, and the potential risk to others. The live stream was both evidence and a chilling reminder of how quickly technology can intersect with human tragedy. Officers canvassed the neighborhood, interviewing witnesses who had seen the altercation at the residence or had observed the vehicle during the pursuit. Some described seeing Brown drive erratically, weaving through traffic, narrowly avoiding collisions. Others reported hearing him speak to the camera, making statements that confirmed threats he had previously voiced. These first-hand accounts, combined with forensic evidence, began to paint a detailed picture of the hours leading up to the crash. Forensic experts examined Brown's vehicle, noting skid marks, impact points, and vehicle damage. Investigators worked to reconstruct the trajectory of the chase and the precise location of the final collision. The goal was to determine whether any external factors had contributed to the fatal outcome and to understand the potential risks posed to the public during the pursuit. Every detail, no matter how small, was critical in establishing the timeline and sequence of events. Throughout the investigation, law enforcement faced the challenge of separating facts from speculation. The high-profile nature of the case, amplified by social media and national attention, created pressure to produce answers quickly. Yet the officers remained focused on methodical, evidence-based procedures. They worked to piece together the narrative from eyewitness accounts, hospital records, police reports, and the digital evidence preserved from the live stream. The investigation revealed a complex interplay of domestic conflict, mental distress, and public exposure through technology. It exposed vulnerabilities in the ways threats are addressed in real time, and highlighted the dangers inherent when personal disputes spill into public spaces. Each piece of evidence brought authorities closer to understanding not just what happened, but why it happened. By examining these factors, investigators began to reconstruct the final hours of Antavius Gettit Brown's life with precision, revealing the full magnitude of a tragedy that began in a quiet neighborhood and ended on the streets of Columbia, South Carolina. With the death of Antavius Gettit Brown at the scene of the crash, the legal process that would normally follow a homicide case took an unusual form. Brown's passing meant that criminal charges against him could not proceed, but the investigation shifted immediately into determining accountability, examining procedural responses, and addressing the implications of his actions. Law enforcement agencies, local prosecutors, and medical professionals became central figures in reconstructing the events for both the public and official records. Authorities reviewed the sequence of events meticulously. Police reports detailed the timeline from the initial altercation at Brown's residence to the high-speed chase that ended near Garner's Ferry Road. Every decision made by officers, from initial dispatch to pursuit strategy, was evaluated to ensure compliance with departmental protocols. Questions arose about whether interventions could have prevented the chase or minimized its risk to bystanders. Internal reviews examined the coordination between units, the speed of communication, and the response to live social media broadcasts during an active threat. Meanwhile, hospital records and staff testimonies became critical pieces of evidence. Topia. Tapia's account was central to understanding the motive behind the shooting and the extent of Brown's threats. Her testimony, recorded under official procedures, outlined the argument, the moment she was shot, and the threats that followed. Investigators compared her statements to the digital evidence from the live stream, creating a comprehensive timeline of Brown's movements and mental state. The case also prompted legal and ethical discussions at the community level. Lawyers, journalists, and public safety officials debated the intersection of domestic violence, mental health, and the role of social media. While no criminal trial would take place against Brown, discussions centered on potential civil liability and protective measures for the victims. Community leaders and local legislators began exploring whether policy changes were needed to prevent similar incidents in the future. These conversations were informed by forensic analysis, eyewitness accounts, and the digital record captured in the live stream. Media coverage played a significant role in shaping public perception. News outlets across the country reported the events in real time, amplifying the impact of the tragedy. While some coverage focused on the immediate danger and police response, other reports examined Brown's life, his music career, and his history with Tapia. Public reaction ranged from shock to grief, and the live stream itself became a point of intense debate regarding the responsibilities of social media platforms during crises. For the families involved, the absence of a trial left many questions unanswered. Tapia, her children, and Brown's family were left to process a tragedy that had unfolded in a public and highly visible manner. Grief, anger, and the need for closure became intertwined with media scrutiny and the broader social implications of the case. Legal experts emphasized the importance of mental health intervention, domestic violence prevention, and crisis response as lessons drawn from the events of that day. Ultimately, the aftermath of December 28, 2024, highlighted the complexities of a case where the perpetrator did not survive, but the consequences extended far beyond his death. Investigators, legal authorities, and the community were left to navigate the implications, ensuring that the record was complete, that lessons were learned, and that the story of Antavius, Gettit, Brown, and Tapia would be remembered as a stark reminder of the real dangers of domestic violence, unchecked threats, and public exposure through social media. The aftermath of December 28, 2024, sent shockwaves through Columbia, South Carolina, and reverberated far beyond the city limits. The immediate focus of law enforcement and community leaders was on the surviving victim, Tapia, and the children who had narrowly escaped harm. Authorities ensured she received medical care, psychological support, and protection, recognizing that the trauma she endured extended far beyond her physical injuries. The community rallied to provide support, yet the images and recordings from the day remained vivid in the minds of all who witnessed them. Social media played an unprecedented role in the aftermath. Brown's live stream of the pursuit circulated widely, shared across platforms, dissected by experts, and discussed on national news. For many, the video provided clarity about the timeline and Brown's state of mind, yet it also created ethical questions about spectatorship in real-time crises. Viewers had seen the moments leading up to his death unfold live, and the experience sparked debates about responsibility, intervention, and the psychological impact of witnessing such events. Investigators continued to analyze every detail, from the initial altercation in Brown's home to the final crash. Vehicle damage, skid marks, and the exact location of the collision were examined to determine whether anything could have altered the outcome. Authorities also reviewed communication between units during the pursuit, aiming to identify opportunities for improved coordination in future high-risk scenarios. Each element of the investigation revealed not only the facts of the case, but also the broader implications for law enforcement response, public safety, and digital evidence management. The tragedy prompted difficult questions about domestic violence, mental health, and the potential for intervention. Experts in behavioral science analyzed Brown's actions, exploring what might have led a man to take such extreme measures, to involve social media in a deadly pursuit, and to end his own life. Psychologists considered the pressures of fame, the stresses of personal relationships, and the warning signs that may have been overlooked. The case became a study in how mental health challenges intersect with domestic conflict, and how rapidly such situations can escalate when not addressed. Community members, advocates, and law enforcement began discussing preventive measures. Domestic violence awareness campaigns were renewed. Social services explored protocols for monitoring high-risk individuals, and city officials debated policies to address live-streamed threats in real time. While no legal trial would occur against Brown, the conversation surrounding his actions emphasized accountability, intervention, and the protection of vulnerable individuals. Several theories emerged about what might have happened if intervention had occurred earlier. Some suggested that quicker police response or alternative crisis management could have prevented the pursuit altogether. Others focused on mental health intervention, arguing that access to counseling or support networks might have altered Brown's trajectory. Experts weighed each scenario carefully, assessing the plausibility based on the evidence, the timeline, and the known behaviors of those involved. In the end, the most chilling reality was not a question of speculation, but of fact. A domestic dispute escalated to violence, threats were made, lives were put at risk, and one man chose to end his life on a public stage, leaving survivors, witnesses, and an entire community to process the aftermath. The case of Antavius, Gettit, Brown, and Nuderatopia Tapia stands as a stark reminder of the deadly combination of personal conflict, mental instability, and the reach of modern technology. As we reflect on the events of December 28, 2024, the magnitude of the tragedy surrounding Antavius, Gettit, Brown, and Nuderatopia Tapia becomes clearer. What began as a domestic dispute escalated into a chain of events that ended with a man's death, a survivor's trauma, and a community left grappling with questions that have no easy answers. The story forces us to confront the realities of domestic violence, the fragile boundaries of mental health, and the profound influence of social media in moments of crisis. For Nuderatopia Tapia, the aftermath was a complex mixture of relief, pain, and uncertainty. She survived her injuries, yet the psychological impact of the shooting and the chase remained. Her children, shielded from the immediate violence, were still affected by the knowledge that their lives had been threatened. Family members and friends worked to provide support, but the shadow of the day's events lingered, a reminder that trauma extends far beyond physical wounds. Tapia's resilience became a focal point, illustrating both the strength required to endure such violence and the challenges inherent in recovery. For the community of Columbia, South Carolina, the incident sparked reflection and debate. Neighbors, witnesses, and residents confronted the reality that the safety of their streets could be shattered in moments. The live stream of Brown's pursuit circulated widely, creating a collective memory of the event that was immediate and unfiltered. Discussions arose regarding the responsibility of viewers, the ethical limits of social media platforms, and the ways in which real-time broadcasts can amplify both fear and awareness. Law enforcement and local authorities examined the lessons of that day in detail. The sequence of events underscored the challenges faced during high-speed pursuits and the critical decisions made in seconds that can determine life or death outcomes. Review boards analyze communication between units, pursuit strategy, and coordination with emergency responders, seeking ways to reduce risk and improve public safety in future situations. At the same time, the case highlighted the limitations of law enforcement when faced with unpredictable behavior and rapid escalation fueled by technology. The tragedy also prompted broader conversations about mental health intervention. Experts noted that Brown's actions reflected a combination of personal stressors, relational conflict, and potential underlying psychological issues. The inability to intervene before violence erupted became a central point of concern. Advocates emphasized the importance of accessible mental health support, early detection of warning signs, and community engagement to prevent similar incidents. As we consider the story of Antavius Gettit Brown, it is impossible to ignore the intersections of human choice, vulnerability, and consequence. One man's decisions resulted in death, fear, and lasting trauma for those involved. At the same time, the incident serves as a case study in the ways society must confront domestic violence, mental health, and the complex impact of technology. This story, while tragic, also challenges us to reflect on the fragility of life and the urgency of intervention. It invites difficult questions about responsibility, support systems, and the measures necessary to prevent such events in the future. December 28, 2024, remains a day etched into memory, not only for the shock of the events themselves, but for the lessons they demand we learn. If you found this account compelling, take a moment to consider the broader implications. Domestic violence, mental health, and technology converge in ways that are immediate, real, and dangerous. Share your thoughts, engage in the conversation, and ensure that the stories of those affected are remembered and learned from.